Hello, I'm a Toycat, and this video is 144p. You might see some other quality options if you click one of the buttons to try to increase it, but if you do that, you'll realize very quickly that no, regardless of what video setting you choose, this video is going to be in 144p, an option that is so low it wasn't around when YouTube started. It was added only a few years ago as a way to save data for mobile users who absolutely need to watch a video but don't have much available. So why exactly is this video in 144p? Why am I doing a favor to everyone who is on a data connection, who's going to save a lot of data because of this? You're welcome, by the way. And the reason for this is because I wanted to kind of make a bit of a challenge video. I wanted to challenge you to go back to how things, needed to be at the very dawn of the internet and remind you how great things are by encouraging you to try and watch as much of this video as you can, to try and discern as much as you can from this 144p, because it is technically enough to understand everything that's happening today, but also kind of not. And to make it even harder for you, why play in regular Minecraft when we can play with a 64x or even just a 32x texture pack like we're gonna do today? Because this is the perfect video to take real advantage of that fact, right? You can see, looking around the world, look how much better it looks now, except this is 144p, right? So yeah, besides just joking around, which I kind of want to do a video, like, hey look, have you noticed how behind me, even though this is green screen, and in 1080p this usually looks fine, when YouTube compresses it down to get to 144p, when video, like compressors try to take that information and squash it, you'll see how my background isn't actually perfectly transparent. You might see the edges, or it might be very clear depending on what YouTube does, but this is an artifact of 144p, because what people think 144p means is 256 by 144 resolution, like that number of pixels across, that many pixels down. And although that's a big part of what makes 144p, the truth is the much bigger part of what makes 144p true 144p, and the reason why even on this video you'll see a difference between 4K and 144, even if it's not very much, is that true 144p is all about squishing the data in the video to try and make it as, again, compressed down as possible. And you might say, what exactly is the point in that? How exactly do you benefit from having the video look worse? And that is because, obviously, the way a video works is it's sending 24 frames a second, but instead of sending 24 frames a second of pure video, because, if you send 24 images a second, that's going to add up to a lot. Your data's going to run out real fast. Instead, what a video compression algorithm does is it tries to work out the changes from frame to frame, because from now to now, there wasn't very much that changed on screen. Things moved a little bit, but it's easy enough to calculate that. Instead, you just have to work out what has changed, what wasn't there last time, that is there now. And yeah, that's what video compression algorithms do. They try and work out the number of changes between frames, and then they try to minimize those changes. So things get a bit rough, the number of colors get a bit rough, and this is all a part of an attempt to save your, your data, your hard drive size, your whatever, constraint there is. It tries to save on the file size, which is why when I recorded this video, it's going to be somewhere in the, 4 to 5 gigabytes of, file size range, and even that's compressed from the 50 to 60 that it would be if it was raw, and then it's going to go down and down to the stage where when you're watching this video, if you're watching in true 144p, it should only take about 2 megabytes a second, or megabits a second, off your internet connection to actually sustain. I mean, you can watch an entire 10-minute video with 20 megabytes, or you could watch, 120-minute videos and only use up your 2 gigabytes, which I assume you have a month. I don't know, if you're limited on data, in my head, that always means like 2 gigabytes or less. But why is it then, you might question, like, okay, so now you understand that, video compression is just a way to squish down file sizes, and that's why things look real strange. That's why artifacts that aren't visible normally, because on a normal video, this green is similar to that green. But when you start to, again, when you compress things, you lose the variety of greens. You get 2 different greens that are much more contrasting, which is why there might be a box around me. When you compress the resolution, say, look at this pickaxe right here, it looks really nice for me in true, 1080p 4K. However, when you squish that down to 144p, this is all down to the resolution just being bad. You're not going to see those fine, crisp edges, because to have crisp edges, you need to have lots of pixels to smooth over them. So again, for you, it's going to look a little bit different, a little bit stranger, and that's the cool thing about 144p. If you look at my inventory right now, can you even spot all of these blocks right here? Can you tell me what all of these things are? you might be able to, but it's going to be trickier than normal. It's going to take you some more time. I know I had to squint at my hotbar to really work out what was going on, and that is because, again, that's down to the resolution. Even though, the bigger part of what makes a resolution is the bitrate that comes along with it, the amount of data that is being streamed. Also, when you limit the, the number of bits going across, the number of pixels, sorry, going across the screen, you're also going to cause some issues there. So, yeah, right now we're going to work on our mega furnace, and I wanted to talk a little bit more about why it is that data compression is kind of one of the big overarching fears of, I would say, the future to me. Like, honestly, a lot of people are worried about stuff like, the immediate worries of like, hey, have you noticed, like, I don't know, the climate is changing, or what's the deal with, airplane food these days? These are the real issues that people try to focus on. But one of the issues that you don't think about very often, and maybe with good reason, is that of the amount of data spectrum we actually have available for, let's just say, humanity as a whole, right? But the amount of data spectrum we have for people to use, for the world, for everyone to collectively use, we don't have very much of it, kind of left. Like, if we wanted to have, because here's the thing, right? You might wonder, why is it that a few years ago, like, especially if you have, like, a 10-year-old plan, we used to be able to have unlimited data connections, but now there's, oh, I think I went a block too low. Why is it that now, though, we don't have unlimited data? Why is unlimited data this rare, goofy thing from the past? And even if you have unlimited data, you don't really have unlimited data. You have data up to like a terabyte, and then it like limits itself after that. And the reason for that is because we just don't have the spectrum available to allow it to everyone. Because the way data works, the reason you need to conserve your data in the first place is not just a way for the phone companies, the mobile companies, whoever you're buying your data from, to make some money off you, which, it's totally a part of that too, right? But it's because there's only so much radio waves in the air that things can be sent via. And in case you're curious as to, again, what exactly that means, your data, it doesn't come from nowhere. If you're not connected to Wi-Fi, where do you think the data comes from? It comes from a satellite somewhere, right? Okay, that's not news to anyone. That's like, everyone kind of knew that. But where, the thing that you might not have realized is that satellite only has so much spectrum it can play around with, because radio waves are just, again, like little waves going through the air, and there's only so many different types of waves they can use. It's called a spectrum sale usually, where the government decides who gets to use X or Y or Z part of the spectrum, and, okay, I'm not sure where when this next level starts, but the government decides exactly who can use which areas of the spectrum, and, because there's only so much spectrum to go around, each company has to bid on a certain amount of it, and that certain amount has to cover all of their... Oh, man, we went a block too high this time. How is it possible to make the same mistake twice, but, like, the wrong way? I don't know how that even happens, but let's just remove all these blocks, I guess. But, yeah, so the government has the rights to decide who gets to use which parts of the spectrum, and because there's only so much spectrum to go around, it means that all of their customers have to share this spectrum, which means you'd either have congestion, where everyone's using it too much and things just kind of break, or you have the opposite issue, where you have to limit everyone's data, which is what every single major ISP, as far as I'm aware of, has gone for. A similar version, but, like, less limited, is this, but with cables. I believe Australia always has data caps because there's only so many cables going in and out of Australia, same with New Zealand. It's a really interesting thing, actually, that, like, there's only so much internet to go around, and although the physical cables, like Australia, we can just plant another one. We can lay another one down under the seabed. When it comes to situations like, the US and the rest of the countries with, our 4G, our 5G, data like that, it's actually a existential issue of, like, we only have so much spectrum to go around, and we have to keep on deciding things that aren't worth it anymore. You might recall that we, at least in the UK, we switched from analog TV to digital. This is because we used to send our TV over the radio waves. We need that spectrum for other things now. There's only so much radio wave spectrum, only so much invisible radio beams we can fire into everyone before we just run out altogether. And that's, like, again, in the same way that, like, we have one Earth, we have only so many carbon emissions we can make. We have only, so much rubbish we can dump in the sea before the sea is only rubbish and nothing else. In the same way, I would say we have, like, a crisis on our hands of, like, there is only so much internet to go around, like, only so much internet can be used at one time. So you watching this video, to bring this all full circle, is actually effectively, saving the planet. You're doing your tiny bit to help reduce the amount of internet use. But yeah, this is why, even though, time is going past, one of the interesting technology things that I'm sure you know about is Moore's Law, or the concept that every 2 years, a lot of technology doubles. Not all technology anymore, but, like, for instance, the amount of, like, hard drive space it steadily doubles. Like, I have a 6 terabyte hard drive now. What size do you have? Even though we don't need larger hard drives, generally speaking, smaller hard drives are getting cheaper, and larger hard drives are getting more affordable. It's just a weird, again, because every tech company is trying to improve every single year. This is why, iPhones are faster than years ago. This is why any smartphone is faster than years ago, because tech companies are improving. It's just like, it's what they do. It's one of their main core business strengths. So, an interesting part of this is the fact that internet speeds generally increase, except when it comes to mobile, right? Even though 5G is going to be hugely fast, the issue of how many people can we give 5G to and what exactly can you use it on is going to be a real issue. We're trying to make more efficient protocols, but as we do so, the number of things we want to use the internet for is also going up. And it's this kind of eternal battle, I would say, of like, on the one hand, you've got the fact that we want to have an internet where everything's connected all the time. Like, your fridge can be connected to the internet. But generally speaking, we've started to get to the stage now where we have to work out and limit which devices can use, Wi-Fi and which devices use mobile data, which is why, the kind of swing you might have seen a few years ago towards like everything has a SIM card in and everything can connect to the internet is actually kind of going away, which is something I find hugely interesting. And maybe it makes you realize that, yeah, I'm doing my bit by watching this video in 144p. By watching this low quality video where you can barely see my face, which, by the way, do I look more attractive? You're actually kind of saving the planet, You're kind of helping at least a little bit. You're using less data so that, other things can be better. Also, it does have to be mentioned, like, a big part of why your ISP charges for data is because, or your mobile provider, is because it used to be that if, your mobile provider wanted to make money, what they would just do is they would sell you, more minutes, more text, and that meant that, like, everyone's connected, it costs roughly the same, but you can charge people to use your network more for the things they want to use. But it's 2019. Who is using a phone to call people? I still get anxious every single time I get a phone call. I'm like, no, this isn't okay. I almost want to, like, every single time I get a phone call, I want to be like, what made you think it was okay to phone me without prior permission? It's like, we've gone to that level of this looks different in this text pack. We've gone to that level of like, what are you doing to me? It is basically, I would say, we're not far from phone calls being considered cruel and unusual punishment, because it basically is, right? It's speaking to a stranger you can't see with no context. It's a terrible concept. Who speaks to people anymore? Who texts people anymore? Like, texts in real life, like, what, do you not have internet? Texts to me, they're like a backup last resort. Like, oh god, the internet's down. I guess we'll have to text again. How does this work? SMS, what? Like, that's what it basically comes down to. And because no one texts, no one uses calls, a lot of, providers have realized, oh, we're going to lose money if we only sell those plans. So now it just comes down to, oh yeah, if you want to get a better plan, if you want to, kind of pay more, you get more data. And they've realized the other way around too, that, oh yeah, we could, rather than having unlimited plans for pretty cheap, what if we just charged for every bit of data? And yeah, there you go. Now you know. Why is it that we have so little data? Because there's only so much to go around to begin with, and ISPs have realized that, mobile providers, I feel like in America they're the same companies, but in the UK they're not. Fun fact, my mobile provider and my ISP are different. Although actually, one of the phone calls I get regularly, and this is enough to make me almost consider switching providers, is they call me once every 6 months. They're like, hey, we noticed you don't have internet with us. I'm like, I can't. And they're like, hey, would you like to switch even though, you need business-grade internet because you make YouTube videos? And I have to be like, no, I won't. They're like, I'll give you a free tablet. And yeah, I don't know. Like, it's terrible. Just pro tip, I just want to throw it out there that, like, I hate I hate any random phone calls, and I think any company that thinks it's okay to do them, like, it should be considered the same as if I decided it was okay one day. What was that? Oh, it's a cattail. Do you see? Okay, look at this from this angle. You might not be able to spot it. I guess you can't because the cat's. But like, can you see how the cattail kind of looks like a pickaxe going over that torch? I can kind of see it. Wait, look at that. So again, there you can see, there's an interesting thing. Oh, another thing that happens is darkness is much harder to recreate in low settings. If you watch Game of Thrones, which you should have, there's a lot of good episodes this season, you might have noticed how it sucked. It got blocky blacks. This is because darkness is generally a lot harder to compress than daytime is. In daytime, there's a lot of different colors. So if there's like 200 colors in daytime, you can compress that down to 10 colors. And it doesn't look too much worse, or 20 colors, or you get the point. You can compress the color range down, compress the number of colors on screen to reduce the data available. But at night, you know, you have black and then different shades of black, and the game will try and, if you have 20 shades of black and you convert that down to 2, you just get splodgy differences between the two. You kind of need a lot of different shades of black to properly convey nights, and often when something like Game of Thrones is made, they assume that, oh yeah, this is going to be watched in true quality, but when you stream it, things get pretty bad. This is actually also, interestingly, the reason why I don't recommend, if you watch Netflix at all or any other stream platform, they'll often offer for like $2 more or £2 more, hey, you can stream HD or Ultra HD. Especially if you don't have a 4K TV, it won't even play it in 4K. But the real thing is that like 4K with a low bitrate looks worse than 1080p with a good bitrate. I could prove this on some video sometime. But yeah, the resolution actually is less important than the bitrate that comes along with it, which is why even this video, it's 144p across the spectrum. But actually, you know, give it a try. Try increasing the the bitrate, the resolution to 4K, and it's gonna look, at least interesting enough to me, it's gonna look a little bit better. It's still gonna look 144p, it's still gonna be blocky, but you'll notice how a lot of changes will have been made, and that is because of the fact that YouTube will give you a higher, bitrate, higher number of bits streaming at those higher resolutions. Like, the resolution needs to come along with a higher bitrate for it to make sense. But that means that even if you make a 1080p video, if you watch it in 4K, if I can do that sometimes, I can make it available in 4K by rendering it that way, you can get higher video quality even where there's not much, when there's no real resolution increase, just because of that little fact. So that's interesting to me. Maybe it's interesting to you. So yeah, let's do a little bit of a world tour. Let's show some really exciting things, because I want to also take advantage of this in a few different ways. I love the interesting facets of like why it is that video compresses in the way that it does, because it's something that is never really thought of, but I think it's going to be more and more of an issue. Like, one day we'll work out enough storage space that, like, oh yeah, it doesn't matter if this video file is a terabyte. One day we'll work out internet so that as long as you're on Wi-Fi or something, like, you'll always be able to watch at maximum quality. Because again, the amount of throughput we have is always increasing. The backbone of the internet is only increasing in its capacity, right? Like, the quality of things is only going to go up when you're connected to the internet. But when it comes to mobile data, that's something we're still kind of working out, and we're not even sure if we truly can work out permanently. Like, is there ever going to be a permanent solution that makes everything great? I'm not too sure, and that's interesting to me. But yeah, one last little fun test here. Look at all this green. Again, I can't tell for sure how this look on the final video. I'm excited to watch this through. I'm excited to do this experiment live myself, because looking at all these forests right here, you can see how, oh yeah, there's something a bit odd about them all, isn't there? There's something just a bit strange about seeing all these forests. But yeah, but before we go, one thing I have to do before I leave is I have to play some PvP, so you can see the high quality action that comes when we try to fight people, but we're doing it in this quality. But yeah, there's something that I always do think back to, and that is that when I was first using the internet, like 2003, 2004, before YouTube, you didn't really watch videos. You couldn't actually watch any videos in any quality. You could download them sometimes, and like that was a lot of effort. It wasn't a thing you did widely, basically. But YouTube has made it so that not only can you, host videos and watch them anywhere, anytime, but it's entirely free to do so. Oh god, there's a guy right here. Okay, well this isn't gonna go well. He has an iron sword, and I'm just. Oh wait, maybe it is gonna go well. But yeah, there's an interesting kind of. Okay, we're dead. I did it myself though, so it's fine. Killing yourself is much more honorable than that's not even true. But yeah, it makes you really appreciate the fact that all of this data is being used all the time to send all of this stuff over. And it's not only that it costs you money because you have a data plan. Imagine how much it costs YouTube money because they're sending to millions of people. In fact, YouTube has never really made a significant profit. I want to say some years they technically made a profit, but it's like very small compared to the overall thing. YouTube doesn't really make money doing what they do. They do it because they want to have that thing out there. And yeah, even though they take 45% of any revenue generated by the channel, just as a fun fact, just so you know. That's what they, oh god. That's actually how much they take. They take 45% before I get any money, and then like again, the network sometimes takes a few percent, but they take 45% of the gross money that they generate for the channel via the ads before it. And it's interesting that even in a world, oh god, is this guy ever gonna die? But it's interesting that even in a world where like, oh yeah, data is limited, even when they're spending so much on these things, and even when they could monetize things so much better, they could just say to every creator like, oh, instead of 45%, we want 65%. Oh, instead of 45%, we want 51%. Like, they could take even just 49%, right? No one would really complain about 4 extra%. It's the amount that it could put them in the profit, but they never generally have decided to do something like that. They've always kind of stuck to their guns of, you know, free to use for the user, besides if you want to pay for YouTube Premium. Oh man, that was close. Free for the user, and, you know, less than half of the revenue from the creator. And it's allowed so many livelihoods to be possible on the side of it. So yeah, this data conundrum is not only just a really big issue that we have to solve, but some of the solutions, sometimes even just half solving it has resulted in some of the amazing things. You know, like that you see on the rest of YouTube, or if you like this channel, it wouldn't be possible without the, why do people do that? Like, if you're in the middle of a fight, don't eat a golden apple, by the way. And if you're in the middle of a big crisis, why not try and solve it rather than eating golden apples or something? You know, that's definitely an analogy I'm definitely making. But yeah, this challenge is kind of here to remind you that, you know, there's only so much, you know, kind of in the same way that like some people are like, oh, we're gonna black out our site to show that, you know, like under piracy, not piracy, under like, you know, copyright protection laws, we might not be available. In the same way, this is like, oh, who knows in the future how much data we'll have available. Okay, I'm glad he ran away, actually. He's probably dying more than me if he ran, though, so maybe it wasn't smart for me to get out there. Let's just replace this with this. Let's replace this with this. And let's just go charge in there again, I guess. Because, you know, what could go wrong? Okay, let's do this. I'm ready. Okay, there we go. You always want to get started with the bow, because then you can just finish. Oh, yeah, he's running. He's running good. Perfect, perfect. Oh, no. Oh, darn it. Pro tip. Oh no, he's got a golden apple in him now. Okay, this is like anyone's game now. Who knows how this is gonna go? I guess I know how it's gonna go because I think I'm gonna win it. But yeah, in the same way this video, in the same way like sometimes like, oh, do you know how crazy water is? Do you know how crazy the internet is? And if you don't, hopefully this video reminds you that the internet be real crazy. It really be. It really is really that way. It really is real crazy. I think that sentence made some sense. Anyway, thank you very much for watching today's video. If you made it this far in the challenge, then I salute you. I think, statistically speaking, like 90-something% of people don't make it this far, or aren't going to make it this far. We'll see after the fact. But if you did, comment down below saying pineapple tree, because is this a pineapple tree? If it's not, it's a pineapple tree now, and we'll see how many people can actually watch all the way to the end of the video. And just in case anyone skips to the end, we'll have a few seconds now where I'm like, hey, this is the real end of the video. If you are here, then I hope you enjoyed this very high quality video thing that you saw in the background. Don't forget to like it, favorite it, and subscribe it, because I'll see you all in the next one.